The lecture hall of the Galactic Institute buzzed with the soft hum of translation devices as students from 47 different species settled into their seats. Professor Zekthar, a towering Vrexian with iridescent scales and 4 arms, stood at the podium, his holographic display flickering to life behind him. Today, Zekthar announced, his voice carrying the typical Vrexian condescension, we will discuss the military capabilities of developing species, with particular focus on humanity. In the back row, Lieutenant Commander James Chen sat quietly, his Terran Defense Force uniform crisp and proper. The dark blue fabric bore the insignia of Earth's United Nations, and across his chest a row of medals caught the ambient light, though none of the other students had bothered to notice. Humans, Zekthar continued, manipulating the holographic display to show Earth rotating in space, are a curious case study in military incompetence. Despite their aggressive nature, they have never truly won a war. A murmur rippled through the classroom. Several students glanced back at James, but he remained impassive, his dark eyes fixed on the professor. Their conflicts are legendary for their futility, Zekthar said, warming to his subject. They fight amongst themselves with primitive weapons, achieving nothing but mutual destruction. The First World War, the Second World War, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, all examples of human inability to achieve decisive victory. A Quillarian student, her crystalline form refracting light across the room, raised a tentacle. But Professor, didn't humans win the Second World War? Zekthar's scales rippled with amusement. Define win, young one. They destroyed half their planet, killed millions of their own kind, and created weapons capable of rendering their homeworld uninhabitable. Then, having learned nothing, they immediately turned those weapons on each other in what they called a Cold War. This is not victory. This is barbarism dressed in patriotic colors. James shifted slightly in his seat. The movement was subtle, but the medals on his chest clinked softly together. Still, no one paid attention. Furthermore, the professor continued, humans lack the physiological advantages necessary for true warfare. They have no natural armor, no venom, no advanced sensory organs. They are soft, slow, and remarkably fragile. A single Vrexian warrior could defeat a dozen human soldiers. Then how did they achieve spaceflight? Another student asked. Luck and stubbornness, Zekthar replied dismissively. They throw bodies at problems until something works. It's hardly a sophisticated approach. When they encountered the Kryn Collective at Proxima, they lost 3/4 of their fleet before retreating. When the Zelthari raided their colony on New Perth, humans sued for peace after a single engagement. They are, in essence, a species that talks fiercely but collapses when tested. James finally stood, the scraping of his chair drawing every eye in the room. He walked down the aisle with measured steps, his posture straight, his face neutral. As he approached the podium, the light caught his medals properly for the first time. There were 12 of them. Zekthar's 4 eyes narrowed. Lieutenant Commander Chen, I presume you have a question. Not a question, Professor, James said quietly. A correction. The room fell silent. James pointed to the first medal on his chest, a silver star against a blue background. Battle of Proxima Centauri. You're right that we lost 3/4 of our fleet. What you didn't mention is that we were defending a colony of 30,000 civilians against a Kryn armada of 200 warships. We had 43 ships. By the time reinforcements arrived, we'd reduced their fleet to 74 vessels. The colony survived. We held. He moved to the second medal. New Perth, yes, we sued for peace. After we captured 17 Zelthari commanders, destroyed their staging ground, and made it clear that raiding human colonies would cost them more than they could afford. They agreed to our terms, not theirs. Zekthar's scales shifted from blue to a darker purple. Those are exceptional circumstances. Every war is exceptional circumstances, Professor, James interrupted, his voice still calm but carrying an edge now. You say we never win. Let me tell you what victory looks like for humans. He touched the third medal, Siege of Kepler Station. 6 months. No resupply. We ate ration packs designed to last weeks. We recycled our water until it was barely drinkable. We held that station because 3 million refugees needed time to evacuate. When relief finally arrived, only 47 of us were still alive. But 3 million people reached safety. The fourth medal. Operation Darkfall. You want to talk about human fragility? We infiltrated a harvester hive ship, a ship designed to process organic matter into fuel. 30 humans went in wearing nothing but environment suits and carrying plasma charges. We destroyed that ship from the inside. 7 of us made it out. Student after student leaned forward, transfixed. The 5th expansion war, James continued, touching the 5th medal. The Confederation thought humans would roll over when they blockaded the Sol system. We broke that blockade. We didn't have better ships or stronger weapons. We had crews that refused to give up. We had engineers who found solutions where there weren't any. We had captains who rammed enemy dreadnoughts when they ran out of ammunition. Zekthar attempted to interject, but James pressed on. You're right about one thing, Professor. We're soft. We're slow. We're fragile. We don't have scales or venom or enhanced senses. But you know what we do have? He met Zekthar's eyes directly. We have a species that looks at impossible odds and says not good enough. We have soldiers who will hold a position not because they'll survive, but because someone else needs them to. We have a culture that commemorates our defeats as fiercely as our victories because we learn from both. You call it barbarism. We call it determination. James touched the final medal, a simple bronze circle. This one isn't for a battle. It's for 20 years of service. 20 years of standing between humanity and everything that wants to harm it. I've lost friends, Professor. I've made decisions that haunt me. But I've never lost a war. The silence in the room was absolute. You say humans never win wars, James said softly. Maybe you're using the wrong definition of victory. We don't fight to conquer. We fight to protect. We fight to survive. We fight so that the next generation doesn't have to. And if that's not winning, Professor, then perhaps your species has forgotten what war is actually for. James turned and walked back to his seat, his medals catching the light with each step. Behind him, Zekthar stood frozen at the podium, forearms hanging limply at his sides, unable to formulate a response. In the back row, Lieutenant Commander James Chen sat down, his expression once again neutral, as 47 species of students looked at humanity and those 12 medals with new understanding.